recommended for non-statutory inquiry. One of these, the death of Patrick Nugent, a 23-year-old banqueting manager killed at work in Bunratty Folk Park in County Clare 32 years ago this month. His family's 3-decade campaign for the truth surrounding his death was featured on Drive Time last September. We can hear a quick reminder.
He went out to work to oversee a function in Bunratty, and at 7:45 the following morning we were informed that he was dead. My father, even though he was a man that left school at a very young age, he began to get suspicious that he wasn't being told the truth, because he now received 3 different stories as to how Pat had died, and there was an issue with the fact that there was 2 off-duty members of the guards there that night at the end of the night when the function was over, and it was basically the guards investigating the guards.
That was Martin Nugent speaking to our reporter John Cook last year. John joins me now from our Limerick studio. Stay with the background, John, and tell us a little more of what's known about what happened to Patrick Nugent that night.
Mary, Patrick Nugent was well liked, and he worked hard as the banqueting manager in Bunratty Folk Park. On that tragic night in February of 1984, he was overseeing a 40th wedding anniversary there, and his brothers have told me they'll never forget that awful knock that came to the door of their family home in 6 Mile Bridge the following morning, telling them that Pat was dead. At first they were told it was a heart attack, something they struggled to believe. He was 23 years old and in good health. In later days they were told he'd been hit by a car, then involved in some kind of a collision with 2 cars. The host of the party in Bunratty stood trial for dangerous driving causing death, but was acquitted by a jury and has since passed away himself. But the family feel he had no case to answer, given that an inquest the following year found that Patrick Nugent had died from multiple abdominal injuries and had been struck by a person or persons unknown before he fell to the ground and was later hit by a car. The inquest jury recommended further investigation of his death due to what they described as suppression of evidence in the case, but it never happened, despite the family lobbying politicians and protesting outside Garda stations in the Dáil, and Pat Nugent's parents went to their own graves without those answers they desperately sought. His brothers Martin and John felt the campaign was starting to move again in recent years, though, Mary, when cases of alleged Garda wrongdoing or flaws in investigations came to light. This is around the time of the Gearan report, and during exchanges in the Dáil in 2014, Deputy Claire Daly raised the death of Pat Nugent in Bunratty. She said in the Dáil chamber that it was murder. She believed it had been at the hands of Gardaí, and she stated that it was staged to look like a car accident, and those are quotes from those exchanges in the Dáil in 2014. It was also in that year that the Justice Minister urged anyone with concerns about inadequate investigations to get in touch. So Pat Nugent's case was included in a list of 320 to be reviewed by a senior counsel. The family spoke to us in Drive Time last September, Mary, and they'd been waiting over a year to no words at that stage. They'd heard nothing.
And after they spoke to you, John, for the programme last year, they did get some word of progress. What happened?
Yeah, just over a month ago, Mary, the family finally got a letter from the office of the Justice Minister offering sympathy regarding the death of their brother Patrick and telling them the circumstances surrounding that death would be the subject of a further inquiry by a person to be appointed by the Minister under Section 42 of the Garda Síochána Act. And at first, Martin and John Nugent couldn't believe that they were finally getting some sort of investigation into what really happened to their brother. But a few weeks on, I met with the family again today, and they're disappointed and frustrated all over because they feel an inquiry like this won't make a difference or help them to hold anyone to account for his death. John's wife Deirdre Nugent explained.
Well, we do know that the inquiry has been set up under Section 42 of the Garda Síochána Act. That's a non-statutory inquiry. You know, it doesn't have much power behind it. It can't compel witnesses to appear. It can't result in a prosecution. It's still not going to actually investigate the crime that was committed, and it's still not going to give answers to John and Martin as to, who struck Pat before he died, why was he moved, there's so many unanswered questions that this inquiry, we feel, is not going to answer for us.
Do you know when this inquiry will take place, or have you been given any of those specifics?
No, we haven't been given anything specific. What the Minister said in the letter to us was that she will consult with the Attorney General about the setting up and the scope of the inquiry, but to date we haven't heard what that's going to be. And there's a general election imminent, and we're very concerned that this is just going to get lost again. It's just going to get put on the back burner. it just seems like it's paperwork to be passed from Billy to Jack and over to somebody else, and ultimately there's nothing really being done, and we don't have much faith in this inquiry.
Deirdre Nugent there. Now, John, you tried to make contact with the Justice Minister to raise some of those questions from the Nugent family from 6 Mile Bridge. Did you get any answers today?
Yeah, Mary, I asked the Department of Justice to comment on those concerns raised by the Nugents and to ask when this inquiry will take place, who'll conduct it, and if its findings will be made public. Now, within the past few minutes, I have got a response, and it tells me that some of the inquiries established into these 320 review cases, and in most cases there are no further inquiries, but some have been established. Some will be statutory, some non-statutory, and within the past few minutes, the department spokesperson told me this is a statutory inquiry, but they haven't told me what that means, or they can't go into the specifics of what it can actually do, because they said it's not appropriate to comment on the specifics of any case, and the Justice Minister will consult the Attorney General about all matters that need to be taken into account. But the Nugents have knocked on many doors for this one over the years, and they're still not giving up. They're not satisfied, as you heard. They want to know more, and in conjunction with the Justice4All group, which campaigns for many of the victims and families involved in these reviewed cases of alleged Garda malpractice, they're planning to raise the human rights implications of Pat's case and other cases across the country, first with the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. That's later this week, and beyond that they're hoping to take the issues raised by the death of Pat Nugent in Bunratty as far as the European Court of Human Rights. Imelda Davies is based in Kildare, and she's Secretary of Justice4All.
There has to be a statutory commission of inquiry. There has to be terms of reference. The Minister previously promised that many of these cases would be submitted to the Gearan Commission of Investigation, would have been included with the Sergeant Maurice McCabe's allegations regarding penalty points and other malpractice issues. But that did not happen. We were only giving a paper review, and 90 to 95% of the cases were dismissed. On Thursday, February the 4th, accompanied by Deputies Claire Daly and Mick Wallace, we have a meeting with the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. We'll be bringing up the Nugent's case and many other cases of Garda malpractice. We have submitted the cases already to Sir Nigel Rodley, the chairperson of the United Nations Human Rights Committee, and our aim is to have the Minister for Justice summoned to explain once again the serious oversight and lack of accountability regarding Garda Síochána. And we also want to explain why an effective remedy wasn't established to review these cases.
John, a lot of time has passed. Do they believe, does the family still believe they will be able to get answers?
They're still hoping, at least, Mary, because it's just over a week to go until the 32nd anniversary of Pat Nugent's death. And his brother John told me their grief and frustration has never gone away, but it's never too late to right the wrong that was done, because John was 21 when Pat died. And he told me about the trauma of having to identify his body. He recalls seeing their father crying openly at the kitchen table, something he'd never witnessed before. And even after so many years, John is still quite upset, as he spoke to me today, expressing the view that other people listening to their story this evening could still help in revealing what really happened that night in Bunratty.
I find that it's harder to talk about, even harder now than it was 32 years ago. We're getting devastated, really. You know, it has dragged on, and it has never gone away. So we feel there was a wrong done there. We want to put it right. So, I asked the people who were there that night, especially at the end of the night, they were there, so many, I asked them to do, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And I just say maybe to just come forward. I still think, what triggered this off, what did happen. But, we just don't know, But, and it's just been, it has been just one long sorry saga, from the time it happened, So,
what keeps you going? What keeps you driving this on, this 32 years, this fight?
Well, we feel that there might be, we might get some answers, or someone might even, at this stage, their conscience might get to them. Maybe they might just come forward and just say what happened, because something, he was assaulted, or he was attacked.
John Nugent there, ending that report by Drive Time's John Cook. Sport is next.